Hello everybody and welcome back. Got another vinyl update for you with some recent records I've been picking up. First off, a couple of things I want to mention in brief, however. I want to thank everybody that watched and commented on my vintage reggae sound system vinyl haul. That's a collection pretty special to me, obviously. Probably one I would guess has never been shown in the VC before. Second thing, I may, as of this recording, passed 500 subs. If I have, thank you everybody from the bottom of my heart, the ones who've been there from the very beginning, the ones who have discovered my channel more recently, and if I've not quite reached there yet, then disregard. Also, I want to share one other really cool thing that just happened a few days ago as I speak. Some of you who've been watching my videos for a while may have remembered this obscure Hawaiian record I posted. It was a thrift find, a total blind buy. It was this one right here, Hapa by Lee Fernandez and Brothers. And I posted that on my Facebook page about almost a year ago, I would think. The reason I'm showing it to you on my phone is because I no longer have the record. This lady messaged me through my my Facebook page, Fat City Vinyl and Music Blog. She somehow found that post of that record buried somewhere in my on my page there in the photo albums, and sent me a message. She was actually Lee Fernandez's daughter, and she'd been looking for a copy of that record for years. And she was so excited. She asked if she could buy this record. She really wanted it because it had his autograph that he'd addressed to somebody on it. So of course I messaged her back saying, you know, it's yours, no problem, no questions. Just take it. It belongs to you more than it does to me. And that made her day. She shared some memories of her dad growing up with music in the household. I was able to find out a bit about him. I don't think that record is even listed on Discogs, but she told me he was a Navy SEAL in Vietnam. He was a 6th degree black belt in karate, as well as black belts in Aikido and Judo. And he was just settled on Maui for several years, I guess. Had a studio there where lots of famous people would come through and jam. He shared stages with the likes of Sonny and Cher, the Eagles, lots of people like that. Did a lot of work for charities like the Variety Club, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and others, raising money for good causes. And he'd passed away, of course, so she was so thankful to get a part of his music history, his music background, in the form of his LP, which was signed by him. So that really made my week to be able to send that to a total stranger and have her be so thankful. It was really a special feeling to me. And the ironic thing was he had been based out of Hawaii, but she was actually living in Tacoma, Washington, which I was just in that city a couple weeks before on a little holiday with family. So I'm going to get into some finds now. First off, a few CDs. I had quite a nice CD haul. Thrift, as far as thrift stores, vinyl still very scarce. But I found another copy of Harder They Come soundtrack. I have that one, of course, already, but couldn't leave that behind. Lone Justice, great 80s album. What was this? It's a various artists compilation compiled by David Byrne on Luaka Bop. Beliza Tropical, a Brazilian compilation. Got some good stuff on there. Jorge Ben, Caetano Veloso, all those guys. Cat Stevens, T for the Tillerman. Richard and Linda Thompson, I've never heard anything by them, just heard about them. Shoot Out the Lights. Working Man's Dead, got that on vinyl. There was a nice selection of jazz there. So I got John Coltrane, Giant Steps, Miles, Birth of the Cool, and Miles Ahead. And lastly, Jimi Hendrix, Smash Hits, and Band of Gypsies. So very nice to be able to scoop those CDs up. Next we're going to get into the vinyl hauls. Going to try and keep this moving. I'm going to do a needle drop of the first one. This is a pretty obscure one I found. It's a local Vancouver band from the 80s and early 90s called Bob's Your Uncle. Kind of on the new wavy art rock side. It's a track called Autopilot. Now this group was remarkable because, or interesting, because the lead singer, Suk Yin Lee, was a early Much Music VJ, video jockey. Much Music was the Canadian version of MTV. So they brought her in kind of as a bid for credibility, show their VJs had some real music credentials by bringing in some indie musicians. Tune called Autopilot. And that is what I've never seen before in vinyl. It's on the Criminal label. So obscure Vancouver band. Next up, had a couple of Celtic thrift finds. The Salvation Army store. Chieftains Live. It's on Island, late 70s on this one, 78-ish I'm thinking. Very nice set. And my first Clannad, I've been looking out for them. Never see them in my area, at least not the 70s ones. Mostly the later 80s ones where they kind of got a little new agey or whatever. Writing Souls, Celtic. So that's also a live set. That's on Wolfram label. Very nice. Cool Celtic folk. Another one, Billy Preston, It's My Pleasure. This one I didn't have by him. This is from, where is it from? 1975, A&M. Incredible guest list of players on here. You've got, of course, Billy himself. You've got George Harrison on guitar on one track, credited as Harry Georgeson. Stevie Wonder on harmonica, Cyrita Wright on vocals, and the Tonto synthesizer from Tonto's Expanding Headband. And the guys behind that album produced this album. And also Shuggie Otis on guitar on another track. So crazy lineup of players, nice condition, and when I opened it up, oh, that's not it, still had poster inside. That was a cool find. Picked up this one, Fifth Dimension. Always like their harmonies, especially when they're covering Laura Nyro songs. This is one I sort of thought I had already, but turns out I didn't. It's got some of their classic hits on it. There was a couple Lighthouse ones at the thrift store one day. One was an upgrade copy for me, and this one I did not have. Best of Lighthouse, GRT label. The Roger Dean cover artwork. GRT. Lighthouse, kind of a Canadian horn rock band, I guess you would say, similar to Chicago or Blood, Sweat and Tears. A bit of sunshine pop almost in some of their arrangements as well. Great band. Skip Prokop passed away not too long ago. And last up for the thrift finds, there was Peter Tosh, Wanted. This is one I had already. This copy is actually a slight upgrade on my own. EMI label, of course. So pretty happy to upgrade that one. Last couple of finds were online purchases. I'm starting to pick up a few, particularly the reggae ones, as it gets harder and harder to find things I'm looking for locally. I'm starting to pick up a few things online. This is one I've been looking for years. Never see a copy of this around. It's one I've had on CD for many years, and it's quite a classic. It's not one you hear about a whole lot these days, at least I don't, but it was always on my radar from the time I was just starting out in reggae. It is The Wailing Souls, Wild Suspense. Got a nice copy still in shrink here. That is on Mango, imprint of Island Records. This came out 1979, I believe. The Wailing Souls are one of those Jamaican harmony groups. Started out in the 60s, kind of went through various different names, various incarnations of the group, different lineups. But kind of the core of the group was Winston Matthews, also known as Pipe, his nickname, and Lloyd McDonald, also known as Bread. They're kind of the two focal points of the group. As of this lineup, they also had Garth Dennis in the band, who was a founding member of Black Uhuru. But absolutely classic early set from them. Remixed slightly from what you might hear if it was a strictly Jamaican production. Obviously aimed at an international market, but never less than inspired from beginning to end. Updates, Row Fisherman Row, which they had done for Studio One earlier in the 70s, and just brilliant set. Last one I'm going to share today, another classic I'd never owned before. It is the Maytones, Boat to Zion. This came out 1976, I believe. It's a UK pressing on the Burning Sounds label, and it is a beautiful blue vinyl pressing. Burning Sounds was a label that was formed in England to release Jamaican music there. And the Maytones were again a duo, or not again, but primarily a duo as opposed to the more common trio format of the Jamaican vocal groups. The lead singer is Vernon Buckley, also known as Vernon Maytone. They had, as many groups did, started out as a tryout for Studio One, didn't really get anywhere there. They linked up with a producer named Alvin Ranglin, who had a label called Gigi's. He specialized in kind of a more rural style of reggae, sometimes called country reggae. It's not really anything to do with country music. It's just a bit more laid back, more reflective, very moralistic in nature and as far as the lyrics go. Lots of parables, lots of Jamaican folk sayings, and of course a kind of a gospel revival feeling at times. But yeah, so that he specialized in that kind of sound, which was based more on the countryside of Jamaica rather than the more intense Kingston sound, if that makes any sense. And the Maytones typified that sound. They were from a village called Maypen in the parish of Clarendon, so hence their name, Maytones. They took the tones part from other groups like the Heptones. At one point they were called the Mighty Maytones. Actually, they are billed as the Mighty Maytones here, as a nod of the Tam to the Mighty Diamonds. And these kind of names they would come up with. Classic album, just roots harmonies, gentle, unhurried, laid back, strictly roots cultural feeling throughout. Lovely sound quality on this one as well. It's got some thick bass, but enough space to let the little touches like percussion here and there shine through and have their little moment. It's mastered by Kevin Metcalf in London, who later in the 90s and early 2000s did all the Blood and Fire releases. They went to him as a veteran mastering engineer, of course. So lovely classic to add to the collection. Beautiful condition. The Maytones, Boat to Zion, and awesome cover art as well. They're all getting on the boat to Zion. So that's what I've got for you today, guys. There's a record fair coming up in my area, first one of the year. So I hope to have some new finds for you today. But this is what I thought I would share right now. Hope everybody is doing well out there. Cheers. Thank you for watching, as always, and take care.